Got it. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click us live stream. Watch us on your smart television. Watch us on YouTube, WCEG Network. I am your host, Damita Chatman, for the next hour, speaking life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Last but least, this is the disclaimer. This is all the show's hosts' opinions and the guests, not the show producer. Thank you for your support. I want to thank these fine people for taking the time out to come and let's talk about some issues. I'm going to give them a couple minutes, a minute to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Miss Erika Utley.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. Thank you guys so much again. Thank you, Ms. Damita, for inviting me on this illustrious platform. I'm excited. Once again, my name is Erika Utley. I am a licensed therapist here in the state of Georgia. I'm also an author. And more than anything, as I always state when I go on platforms, I am a human being. I am a trauma-focused therapist, so which means I deal a lot with individuals or couples with trauma that they may have endured, and then they're ready to overcome. So that's a little bit about me. And thank you again. I'm excited. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. I know it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Marcus Carter.
Hi there. My name is Marcus Carter. I'm originally from here, Georgia, in Marietta, Georgia. I'm glad to be here. I'm a licensed professional counselor as well as a master's addiction counselor as well. I'm a founder of Insights for Living Counseling, which is a consultant in behavioral health education and training organization. I've been working with youth, family, and doing counseling and behavioral health services for people over 38 years. I'm glad to be able to be involved in helping us encourage one another as well as our community and be able to have healthier and productive lives. Thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you, Reginald. He don't want me to call him doctor, so I'm going to call him Reginald.
I will introduce myself as Dr. Reginald Cunningham. And Damita, I am very, very glad to be here with you, always wanting and being available to share insights into what I feel is becoming to be slowly normalized, and that's mental health services. I am a counseling psychologist with a group practice in Washington, D.C., servicing the DMV area. And now I am, me personally, I'm in Georgia. My practice is all virtual, so I can manage that from here. And I'm getting ready to expand here in Georgia. I do have some reach also in New Jersey and Minnesota. But I just feel that as a Black man, particularly as a Black man, speaking to other Black men, trying to enlighten them and help them identify some patterns of behaviors that stunt our being as Black men in this world. That's what I do mainly.
I love that. Well, good. Well, since you got the, and I want to thank you guys for coming. It was an honor to get your request to be on the show. I've been knowing Marcus Carter. I served with him for 13 years, but I've been knowing him since 2005. I met Erika some years ago through her mother. I'm a great person. And me and Reggie, we go all the way back to our hometown. And he's a little older than I am, but we all was around the circle. I think I lived around the corner from him, but it's all good. Went fellowship with the same church and knew his mother, and we knew everybody. So but thank you. But let's talk about this mental illness in the Black families. Reggie, what do you think how we can get a hold of it? Because I noticed that especially our Black men, they don't like to deal with that or go to the doctor to talk about it. So tell me, how can we get a handle of it on this?
Well, I think there are a number of ways we need to start to reclassify this whole phenomenon. You know, I don't particularly like the word mental illness because that puts a stain on what we're trying to eradicate. I do like mental well-being, mental health. I think that currently we are slowly, much too slow, starting to rev up our normalization of what mental health or mental well-being is. It's still taboo. It's still talked under, behind closed doors. But I think that as we evolve, as we are being more vocal about mental health, I see, particularly because I see primarily Black men, I see a slow progression of their acceptance of not mental illness, but mental health.
Got you. What's your take on that, Marcus?
I would agree to the point that we need to help broaden the mindset as well as the conversation about what mental illness is and what mental health is. I think one of the things that I addressed is that that when we look at our general health, mental health, we all have general health, no matter what. When we go to the doctor, generally for exams, they tell you, how do you rate your health? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I ain't got no aches, no pains, but we need to understand how we look at health, whether it's mental or physical or psychological wise. And I look at mental health is we all have the ability to cope with day-to-day issues in a productive way. That's what mental health is. We're learning how to cope and manage the life stressors versus mental illness is when we're having difficulty being able to manage and cope with our life situations. And there's I see it as a different severity level. We may have mild degrees of distress and difficulty, or moderate or more severe. People automatically assume when you talk about mental health, we make mental health, and we're thinking about mental illness. And a lot of people I work with, both in the community as well as in the correctional setting, they're thinking, well, hey, mental health, oh no, I ain't crazy. And that's where the conversation needs to begin, is that, if you want to say crazy, we all a little crazy, but we all have a lot of strengths and weaknesses that we need to work through. So.
Okay. What about you, Erika?
I agree. I also want to bring notice to what Dr. Reginald was saying as far as like mental health becoming more normalized. I think that with the pandemic, for a lot of us, I think we began to realize, oh, wait, I'm not okay. I can't hide behind, my financial stability. I can't hide behind these titles. I can't hide behind religion because church was closed. It was so many different things that changed. And so I believe that when the pandemic hit, people really began to be honest and realize like, okay, wait, I need to maybe get some help or address the fact that I'm dealing with some emotional turbulence. I'm dealing with some depression. I'm dealing with some anxiety. And for some people, I'm dealing with both anxiety and depression. So I believe that we are now, as a community, more in a state of being honest that there may be some things going on with our mental health. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Coming up, when we were coming up, you never heard, well, at least I didn't, bipolar. Now you hear bipolar a lot. We'll start with you, Erika. What you think about this bipolar thing?
You want my honest? I say my honest.
Give me your honest opinion. That's what I want you to be honest.
Here's the thing. Though I am in the field of mental health and I diagnose people and we look at them and determine do they meet certain criteria. I mean, it's what I do. However, I believe that all of us could have a little touch of what we call bipolar, right? And bipolar is essentially just having mood instability. Your moods can kind of just be up and down, racing thoughts, just not really sure how to control the variance and movement with your moods. So honestly, I feel like we all deal with a little bit of bipolar. If I had to put a name on it, which is mood instability. One day we could be great, everything's amazing, and then the next day life comes tumbling down. But there are some people, of course, that are clinically diagnosed with having bipolar disorder. Absolutely, and because their highs and lows can't really be contained. For those of us that are not diagnosed and we just have some of those traits, we may see, we're a little moody today. This weekend, I'll be honest, Sunday, I woke up a little moody. That doesn't mean I'm bipolar, but I was a little moody. So just really understanding, I believe, when it comes to these diagnoses that, yes, some people do have them, but sometimes we just simply have the traits of it. And it's okay. We are human.
Okay. I like that. Marcus, what you think about that? This bipolar thing?
Yeah, I agree. I think what's happened is that in various ways, different settings, people have begun to identify some of the symptoms of one major mental disorder, which is bipolar. But I think one way I like to challenge people when they talk about it that way, or when we all think about it, is that we all personally have emotions and feelings. God designed us to be an integrated person who has the ability to think, to feel, to make choices, to be socially interactive with others, as well as to be able to have our ability to understand and take care of our body. When we look at how we handle our emotions, we operate on a range of emotions and different intensity levels throughout a matter of minutes to a matter of a day. Some of us, I've mentioned and talked with, hey, we have mood swings when we get our paycheck. We get our paycheck, we happy, we glad. But then we stop and think, oh man, I gotta pay these bills. Oh, this money's gone by, So we understanding there is a range of emotions and thoughts that we experience at one time. The key thing there is not whether we have them or not, but it's how we learn to manage them, manage our thoughts, our emotions, and how that helps us in developing a wholesome degree of responding to life.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you think, Reggie?
Well, no, I really do believe that the diagnosis of bipolar, 1 or 2, if you will, has moved down on that scale of severe mental illnesses. It's not really back in the day, it was classified up there with schizophrenia, with personality disorders. Yeah. But I think that over time, and as we get an understanding of what mood swings actually are, it's moving down that spectrum of serious mental illnesses. Just like both Marcus and Erika said, it's basically our reaction to events of the day or the moment, and the problem comes in when we don't have the tools to cope with or to answer to those particular emotions, and therefore we may act out, we may do some things that are uncommon to just normal behavior. But again, I do believe, I know I'm bipolar to some degree. I got some mood swings out of this world, But you catch me on the right day, you're gonna get my alter ego, But that does not mean that I am bipolar, if you will. And I want your audience to also know that a lot of times, depending on the clinical setting that you might go to, we have to give some type of code, if you will, for documentation, just to be able to get payment or things of that sort. So we have to give something, but that doesn't mean that you meet all of the criteria of that particular illness.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. So it's okay to be to say you're not okay. Do you agree with that? Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most definitely. I
think it's something that we've got to start doing. It is okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if we don't ascribe to that, we're really not giving ourselves justice, for our own well-being, because we have to put up masks when we're not okay, and we don't want people to know we're not okay.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a mental issue in and of itself, not being able to express my true self in any given time.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think that in our community, we've been taught to be ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been taught to sweep things under the rug. Because we have some mental disturbances going on. That means that we don't we're different. You know, people are looking at us like something is wrong, when in fact all of us have something that we deal with. All of us all today, your guests, we sitting here with all these degrees and certifications, but you better believe, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I just need to speak for me. We have issues. We have things that we deal with. And so I am an advocate for people to simply be honest. There's no healing if we're not real about it.
I like that.
All too often people are, I'm okay, I'm good. Look at what I'm driving. Look at my home. Look at my thriving business. But behind closed doors, they are suffering.
Mm-hmm. You're preaching now, Erika. You wrote a book back here, and the title of that book was "Deal with That Shit." Is that correct?
Deal with your shit. Yes, ma'am.
Deal with your shit. And when I got that book, I was like, wow, she didn't hit it on the nose. Sometime, and I'm just speaking for the Black community now, because that's who I am. We tend not to deal with our issues.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk from my experience. I remember my son telling me, Mom, you always talking about praying. You always say, God to take care of it, pray. And so I had to kind of backpedal on that. God give us that ability. We're going to pray, but we got to do something to help ourselves too. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes, do you agree with us? Do you agree with me? We hide behind the word God. We hide behind the churches. What you think, Reggie?
As it relates to mental health, I think we hide behind religion, because mental health has not been accepted as an illness like cancer or diabetes. So my thing is, we cannot pray away mental health or mental illness. We can pray, but just like you said, and with anything else, there's some things we got to do. If we're looking at it from a religious or Christian standpoint, just like God created doctors, lawyers to address those things, I believe I was created. I know this is my calling because I'm good at what I do. I know this is my calling to help my community in mental health. So we've got to be more accepting of and do the work, do the homework, not be afraid to make that phone call to talk to someone. It is no shame in it at all. Shame is not doing anything about it.
I'm going to ask Marcus, because I know he's a counselor, but he also is a minister. So Marcus, tell me your perspective. What you think?
Well, it's important for us to constantly talk, teach, educate people, especially within our communities of faith, to help bring a balancing understanding of who we are as people and people seeking to be people of faith. I was involved in a men's conference, men's retreat in the springtime, and we'll have an opportunity to do so in the fall. But one of the things I like to address in that context is that we have many Christian myths about mental illness, such as mental illness doesn't exist. That's one of the key things we have there, and being able to, it's been helpful for me to be able to help highlight and illustrate now in the Bible you see from Old Testament, New Testament, how there is mental illness, just how we view certain things and functioning wise, we don't understand that. Another myth is dealing with depression is a sign of weak faith.
Mhm.
And and a myth is a form of a lie. That's a lie about that, because we can have faith, even strong faith. Even some people I've worked with who are Christian leaders, dealing with major depression. And major depression may be related to how they are stuck. Their coping skills, the ability to handle things is beginning to be overwhelming. But also some of that, whether it's male or female, there's some things we see that may have a biological implication of impacting someone with having major depression or major anxiety issues. Then another lie, which you've already addressed, is all mental health issues can be prayed away. And that's a poor understanding us as a person. Having mental illness is similar, to the person who may be having diabetes. We have diabetes, high blood pressure. Those are specific illnesses that people have at varying degrees. And yes, we need to pray to seek understanding, awareness, and then also what's the appropriate way of how to handle those illnesses, those chronic illnesses we may have. And then another thing comes back to play is that another myth, my community won't understand my mental health needs. And unfortunately, people in isolation or lack of communication or lack of willing to be transparent and honest don't realize that, hey, we're looking at 1 out of 5 Americans, have major anxiety disorder, whether it's pertaining to PTSD, phobias, fears and things like that. And that's across the board, age, ethnicity, income, and gender. But especially in our own community, African American community, we have that issue. And then the last thing I do address is people with mental illnesses are unstable and unfit, for church leadership. And unfortunately, people do not realize that until that comes out. Some people who may be dealing with some major mental illness, as they share and talk about and be willing to be supported by things, then they can be more effective and empathetic in working with people. God designed us to be not independent or dependent, but to be interdependent. Interdependent.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. A question just come in. Most people have health insurance. Do you believe employers would penalize employees who use their benefits to seek help? Do you believe that, Reggie?
I don't use, I think the question is, will the person seeking a mental health services be penalized or singled out, ostracized? Because of HIPAA laws, should not be possible.
All right, great.
What's said in the confines of, my office or my computer screen stays within that. Now, if something leaks out, that's a breach with that insurance company. And that's, unless somebody breaches the system or what have you, it probably doesn't happen. But no, they should not be penalized because of HIPAA laws.
Okay.
Agree.
Okay. Let me ask you, what happens, Erika, when people don't have the insurance to get these type of service? What do you guys do?
That's a really great question. As far as in my practice, I'm self-pay only, okay? And so throughout the years, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, what am I supposed to do? And the thing about it is that there are several resources for individuals that may have insurance and the provider they desire does not take insurance. There's sliding scales based on what your income is. And then also, Ms. Damita, there are a lot of free resources. After the pandemic, and I think it was a beautiful thing, the community came together and put together these resources for maybe 2 or 3 free counseling sessions. And then after your termination with that particular provider, they maybe link you to a place where, you know, it's affordable. But a lot of times people want to use the excuse of, well, I can't afford it, right? And I get it. You know, at first thought, especially if you're going to a provider that does not accept insurance, it can be costly. But then I often wonder, okay, I'm looking at their daily life. They have the nicest hairstyles, nicest nails, you know, nicest clothing, their kids. Look, eyelashes, exactly. That stuff is not cheap. Listen, it's not cheap. I've been learning how to do this stuff myself because it's not cheap. So I look at that, and then I look at them saying, well, I can't afford it. Ma'am, sir, you're choosing, for some people, you're choosing not to afford it. So it's about how to prioritize your mental health. You know, maybe you could go a month or 2 without getting your hair tightened up. Maybe you go a month or 2 without going out on Saturdays. To save up for at least one session. Like I said, it does not apply to everyone. Some people truly do not have the resources, and there are opportunities for them to find free resources. But for those of us that do, please prioritize your mental health. Simple.
Let me ask you, I'm gonna go to Marcus with this. What do you think about, the question is, mental health service being cut out of the national budget?
Not gonna happen.
What do you think about that?
Is that a question about will it be cut out, or?
That's a question. What do you feel about that?
Well, I think primarily, well, let me back up. And since we're talking about how to understand.
Or let me ask you, Marcus, not totally being cut out, but reduced.
Yeah. And I guess to help in having healthy ways of communicating about mental health, what I feel about it is one thing, which is my opinion. But what do I think about it is what you're asking. What I think about it is, one, I think it comes back to how do we learn to manage our own personal issues in life. And I think one of the things is, similar to we touched on a little bit, as people become more comfortable being uncomfortable, to acknowledge that, hey, there's areas in my life I need to grow. There's some baggage and junk that I'm living with that I got to get rid of. I think on one level, especially personally and locally wise, this is where we can go through the process of trying to make sure that I seek out, and I say I, meaning person from the community, seek out help. And I think on a national level, or even on a state governmental level, I don't see that being a issue of too much of an issue of that being reduced, because we do have an influx of that happening, that of resources being reallocated to develop ways on how to help people help themselves. I could say that by working with the state of Georgia, and I've seen in different ways where resources have been reallocated in order to increase the access of behavioral health services. And I say behavioral health to broaden our understanding is behavioral health wise. We have here in Georgia, we call it the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. That's our primary behavioral health service provider for the state of Georgia residents. And as we look at that, behavioral health is involving mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disability. They provided resources to, and that's both resources, monies, and links, and services, telehealth wise, to be able to have access, to services and to be informed of what are services that are available. That's both for pay and even for opportunity for supportive groups. There's various organizations that are volunteer based, where they provide services and support for people with different types of mental illnesses, with substance abuse issues. And sometimes we got, sometimes the majority of the time, we've got a lot of us wrestling with both the mental health and the substance abuse issue. One of our poor coping skills is to use substances as a means to try to deal with the lack of honesty I'm having with myself and dealing with things. That's just a little touch. I'll stop there, but that's a touch of things there.
Let me ask you a question, Reggie. People that's needing, a question came through, people needing mental health or being incarcerated instead of clinical help. Do you think we need to change that?
Well, I think we are in the process of trying to address that by opening and putting monies into services for psychological assistance with EMTs and ambulances. And I think that's where it's starting to be, because regular EMT workers are not equipped to actually know what's going on, or policemen for that matter. So
I like that.
Yeah, I think that it's in its earliest development, but I do believe that it has been an issue. They'd rather lock you up than send you, get some services for you. But again, it's a long road ahead, but it's something that is being addressed now.
Okay, I like it. Let me ask you, I know.
Let me come back and address that tomorrow.
Okay, come on, Marcus.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say there's both variables that are there at hand. There are folks who are dealing with poorly managing their life and dealing with issues and making bad choices and getting caught up within the criminal justice system. I would say I can say this after working 33 and a half years within the criminal justice system, both with people on probation, parole, as well as in prison, as well as I do even now with the role of training law enforcement officers on what we call crisis intervention training. But there's funding and authoritative initiatives that were done by Governor Deal a few years back, that law enforcement have to improve their toolbox. They got to be able to develop and apply escalation skills on how to talk with people, how to identify. That's one of the things I do training tomorrow and go in that. Understanding what are the different mental illnesses that people may have. Understanding them, how is treatment done, causes for some of that, but also what are ways can we engage in relating and thinking with people. The same thing also needs to apply in regards to us in our Black community too, because we sometimes are feeling helpless, frustrated, by some of our own folk who having difficulty dealing with life, but we end up being victims ourselves. And we get stuck in not knowing how to deal with some of those things there. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I think there is a broader movement of how do we hold folks accountable, but also how do we help promote encouraging people to be responsible to help themselves better. And part of that comes with awareness, understanding, and also communicating with each other. These conversations like this is essential for us to make sure we have accurate understanding of some of these issues we're talking about. I've worked with families who had members who were involved in criminal justice system in the prison and in probation, parole. I end up talking with them, and one solution is having people like us who understand some of these issues work within the system. I've worked as a counselor, senior counselor, and helping family members get a better understanding of what their family members are going through. That for some people was like, whoo, night and day. I was wondering what's going on with all these problems with them. You laid it out simple, and then for them too, it helped them to be freed up to, like we talked about earlier, to be honest, to realize, hey, I need to take care of myself, to be able to help other folks help themselves, anyhow. So I just wanted to touch on that. There, like like Dr. Cunningham saying, there's some things that are needing to be done, but there's some things that are being done. And we need to also make sure we understand that.
I told you I got some free counseling. I didn't even have to pay for it. Marcus is good with that. He'll call and he'll ask this. He would always say, well, what do you think about that, Damita? And so I can be honest, 2005 Marcus for 2022, I'm a whole different person than Marcus.
True.
Oh, yeah.
True.
I had to humble myself because I would go off and me and Marcus wasn't the best of friends in 2005, but we became and we got to know each other and study each other. So I thank God for him. Let me ask you a question, Erika. Do you see a lot of ladies, women, I say women, coming to get treatment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, is it another part to it before I jump in?
Yeah, because sometimes women tend to go through mental abuse relationships. So do you see a lot they've been sexual abuse, etc.? Let's hit note on that.
Yeah, so 80% of my clientele is women. You know, I do have some men, but there are some things when it comes to men, it's just not relatable, and so I do refer them out to clinicians such as people like Marcus and Dr. Reginald. But majority of my clientele is women, and it's amazing because we as women wear so many hats. We wear so many hats, and it's not to take anything away from men. I can only speak on my perspective and the women around.
I just did a post about that and got beat up about that. Women wear a lot of hats.
We do. We are, number one, we're individuals, we're mothers, we're caretakers, we are, some of us, we're business owners, entrepreneurs. We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot. And when we're doing a lot, oftentimes we forget to check in with ourselves. Notice I said we're an individual first, but a lot of times we forget about that part. You know, we are trying to multitask. And while giving so much out, we have very little, if anything, for ourselves. So of course, a lot of women that come in and they're dealing with relationship issues, a marriage that they can't stand. You know, they're having parenting challenges. They're having self-esteem issues. They're having traumas, as you stated, molestation from their past, and they're trying to be in a healthy marriage and they can't because they can't even be intimate with their partner because of unresolved sexual trauma. So to answer your question, yes, ma'am, I see a lot of women. It is growing, and that makes me happy. That makes me smile because, like I said, I think we're beginning to understand within the African-American community, like, we need some help. We need some assistance, even if it means just coming to sit on a therapist's couch just to get it out, and the therapist not saying a word. There are times in my sessions where I'm there to be a listening ear, and then in the end, I may hold up a mirror, challenge some of the things that you've stated, but it's a safe space. I encourage women, and also men, but majority of my clients are women, so I encourage women, men, anyone within this community of people that we are sharing this live with, go get some help. I'm a therapist that has a therapist, and I am not ashamed of it. Yeah, I will go there and cry my eyes out. I come out, my lashes are off and everything because we need that support. And a lot of times we think, well, shoot, I'll just talk to my best friend about it, or I'll talk to, my coworker, it's all good. But these people are not clinically trained. And on top of that, they're going to be a lot of times biased because they have some type of investment in the situation. Go to a therapist. We have no investment as far as like you personally. We are there to really assist you in moving to the next level. Go get some professional help. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
I like that. So before I'm gonna go to the men. Do you also see children, young teenagers?
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go to the men and ask about the men.
I started out with children. I absolutely love children. However, what I found, Ms. Damita, is that I can do a boatload of work with children. But if the parents are not actively involved, everything in which I've done with that child, it goes undone. And so I decided that wasn't my ministry. And so God led to working with adults, because if we can tackle the work with the adults who are parents, right, a lot of the times, then that hopefully trickles down to the children.
Okay. Come on, Reggie, let me ask you a question. I'm ask you about the men now.
Okay, go ahead and ask, because I'm gonna circle back around to Erika in a minute, but go ahead and ask this question.
Do you think it's because I know back in the day, Black men just didn't want to go to sit on the couch. Do you think it's okay for the Black men to go sit on the couch?
Absolutely. I could put another word in the place of doggone. I think that, Damita, it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
The face of therapy is changing. And as it's changing, we as male clinicians are finding that men wear a lot of hats too.
Okay, yeah.
And I am all for women and all of the hats that they have. But because of where we come from as men, if you have not read the book by Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, I think DeVry, where she really talks about how we as Black men were stifled all through life not to express our emotions.
Yes.
And as we are learning that it's okay to not be okay, as we are learning to identify certain behaviors as a result of past trauma, such as sexual abuse, because men get sexual abuse and physically abused by women as well. It's not as prevalent. We don't talk about it, but a lot of it's out there. I think, though, as we, again, start to diminish the stigma assigned to all of these mental illnesses, as we decrease that stigma, men are coming forth. One of the first questions I ask men when I do an assessment is, if I could read your mind, what would I discover? Mm-hmm. You can't believe the boatload of regurgitation of things that they've held that comes out with that question. Another question, and I know both of these two, and I put a mirror up to them or their selfie phone. What do you see? And I'm not talking about the image. I want to know, I want them to really start to analyze who they are, what they're doing, what they're not doing, identify those emotions to be able to talk about those emotions. Now, the other problem is their female counterparts have to also have a safe space for them to do that. And that's the big, and not look at them as weak. And that's the first thing that, I'm not going to say majority, a lot of women do. Yeah, he's too emotional. He's, those, if I can express those things, I hold them in, and it's going to come out in negative behaviors in some degree.
Yeah, agreed.
I know, and I'm going to, Reggie co-authored a book, and I was trying to get that book here because I want to read that book. It's Black Therapists Rock.
I keep it handy.
He did that. He did that book.
I think I got mine. But yeah, I co-authored with that book.
Yeah, and so I'm going to read that book. Marcus, what do you have to say about that in the Black men?
About the book, or about what we've been talking about?
About the Black men. Do you think?
Yeah, I would say, and what I'll do is I'll deal with both Black men, with women and men, and children too. And I say mainly that because we're looking at some numbers in regards to approximately 50 to 70% of the youth who end up in either the juvenile justice system and or in the adult justice system. Majority of them have mental health disorders or some major poor ways of coping with some of the stressors they have in life. We see that over 25% of Black youth exposed to violence have proven to be at a higher risk of post-traumatic stress symptoms. We also see that we see a higher number of our Black children who deal with suicide issues. You know, a lot of times that's another one of those things we don't talk much about. But when we look at on a larger scale, you were looking at the #1 leading cause for young people from ages 15 to 24 is suicide. And unfortunately, a large number of our Black kids are within those numbers. So therefore, as we become adults, we still have a lot of poor coping skills. We have a lot of woundedness, unresolved woundedness, that we have not learned skills, tools, and being able to work through them. And our family members and friends have been, I wear glasses. They need outside help. Like I need outside help to be able to see things better, you know, because when I see better, then I begin to think better. Yeah. When I'm able to think better, then I'm able to make better choices in how I manage my feelings, my thoughts, and my actions. We have a larger number of our young people, both Black and others, but Black who are homeless. You know, I've working with some people who help serve and work with our homeless young people. And it's not just teens. A large number of our homeless population are families. A lot of people don't realize that. But not having those structures of stability, whether it's an appropriate place to live, appropriate place for consistency, and having some regular routine and order in their lives, that contributes to that. And unfortunately, our young people have that issue, but also we as an adults do not have ways of evaluating and understanding that, hey, in order for me to be healthier, to be more mature, to be more responsible, I have to learn to balance being open with other people, but also being selective, that I seek out people who can help and support me, whether they are professionals like us, or whether they are common everyday people like us, or or another form of counseling that people lose sight of is group counseling. You know, group counseling is an excellent way of being able to get better equipped, to get support, and also realize that, hey, other folks are dealing with some similar issues. Oh, I didn't realize that. And other folks are learning to get healthier. Oh man, I can learn a lot from them. I didn't realize that. So, you know, those are a little bit. I just touch on that.
I like that. You know, when I'm having a good conversation like that, I look in the time, it's just going by. I'm going to get y'all on with Dr. Wanzo. She's a doctor. And I think she'll like having a show with you. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you guys this question. Do you think some pastors need to go get therapy? That's a yes or no. Erika, what you think? Do you think it's okay for pastors to get therapy, counseling?
Yes, ma'am. And I know you said it's a yes or no, but let me just add a little piece to that.
Keep on.
As a leader, for a lot of us, and not trying to take away from people that may not be in a leadership position, but we have a lot of lives per se on our hands, right? That we're dealing with, that we in some kind of way or another are responsible for. That in itself increases mental health, sometimes like disturbances. It does. And I think that we were talking about religion earlier and we were talking about the church. I think it's so important for us to understand, and Dr. Reginald spoke on this a little earlier. God has put people within the earth to assist you. For those of us that have been a Bible thumper, I'm not one anymore. However, there are scriptures that lead you to that. We are told to seek wise counsel. So for a pastor, for anyone in ministry within the church or wherever, yes, it is okay. It does not make you any less than. It does not decrease your level of faith. It does not decrease your gift. Doesn't take away from it. You are still as impactful, and honestly, will probably be even more impactful if you do seek help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, I had to go get therapy. And the moment that I did that, my impact with my clients became a little greater.
Okay.
I can see me. And if I can see me, then I can help you to see you. So yeah,
I like that.
absolutely.
Thank you. Do you agree, Marcus? We down to 8 minutes. What do you think, Marcus? Quick. Do you agree with that?
3.5. Yeah, it was 2.5 seconds. But no, I was going to say definitely. I say definitely because when I started doing my training, both in community counseling, but also got training in Christian psychological studies, because I realized at a young age that being a leader and seeking to be a godly person are similar, but they're different. And I think a lot of times people think about, hey, in order for me to be a leader in the religious context, I got to be a pastor or got to be a teacher or preacher and all like that. And a large part of that, a lot of those things are basic needs that God gives to all of us. The need for relationship, the need for significance or purpose, the need for personal worth, and the need for safety. We all need that. But yet I would say yes, because I do counsel and train folks who are religious leaders. I even have a close religious leader myself, my sister. She's a pastor down in Florida, and she beat me on the head. You need to make sure you put your services out for aid. I can refer you some people, because sometimes, and it's leaders, period. Whether you're in the political setting, community setting, educational wise, we bought into those myths that we are independent and we do not need to be checked by other people. Yeah. But also there's a legitimate fear that if I am transparent and do share with others, then they're not going to continue to respect me or trust me, or it's going to decrease my ability with my people I serve or work with. And that's part of those 5 myths I've talked about. But as Erika said, as we begin to own up and acknowledge that, but also find safe people who can help do that, it'd be better.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Reginald with that question, but and then I'm going to ask you guys to share your social media, your website, and your numbers. Okay, Reggie.
Absolutely. Just because you can recite every scripture in the Bible does not immune you from having regular people problems. That includes financial, that includes marital, relationships, that includes everything. And I really get what Marcus said at the end, the shame of possibly being exposed in the church and being looked at as weaker and not being able to lead. But in my opinion, and I know my opinion may not count, me exposing that should make me more of a leader, saying that it's okay for you too to go. Yeah. And I do respect a lot of the bigger progressive churches do have mental health ministries in their churches, which has helped the church understand mental illness at another level.
Okay. We'll stay with Reginald. Reginald, give me your website, your social media numbers, so we can put it out there.
All right, I always say this, you can just Google Dr. Reginald Cunningham and everything will come up, but you can reach me on Facebook at Reginald Cunningham. I don't do Instagram a lot, but I'm on there as well. My website is rvccounseling@gmail.com. And my office number is 443-415-2328. Okay,
and type it in the chat also. Marcus, you can say yours and type it in the chat, please.
Yes, I'm updating my website, so I'm not going to give that time, but I'm Insights, number 4, Living Counseling. Insights for Living Counseling. That's number 4. My phone number is 404-550-3082. And you can, for now, reach me through my email, mcarter429@aol.com. Yeah.
Thank you. Erika?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very active on Instagram at Smileology Counseling. That's SMILEOLOGY.com. Excuse me, that's Smileology Counseling, but my website is smileologycounseling.com. My phone number is 404-800-1218. And I am open to new clients at this time if you guys are interested.
Let me tell you, I could sit here all day and talk to you guys. I want to thank you guys so much. I was going to talk about something else, but I just like what you guys was talking about. And I'm going to introduce you, put Dr. Wanzo. She's a doctor. She would love to have y'all on the show, and I want to sit and watch that because this is something that we do have to talk about in our communities. And what I found out, people, they can perpetrate. They, like Erika said, they live in the big houses. And someone told me one time that they made 6 figures, but they're unhappy. Mm. And so my thing about that, I used to always tell my husband, I said, I can live in the shack. And I ate so much bologna and Vienna sausage when I was young. I don't want to eat that, but you give me a little bit of red beans and rice and with no meat, I'm all right. So we have to come together as a community to help, because what I see is going on now is the suicide rate is going up. Back in the day, Black folks weren't jumping off the bridge and taking guns and shooting them in their head. We had a few, Reggie, back in our hometown, but it was very few. Mm-hmm. And they had got caught up into some family issues, but now it's there. And so I think that we need to address the issues. We also need to, and I want to have you guys back, because we need to talk about the homosexuality that the Black folks really don't want to talk about, and they sometimes don't understand. I'm understanding it. The show that I'm gonna try to get y'all on is called Mind Matters on WCEG Network. And so it's a lot of things that we need to discuss, in our community. Before you guys sign off, we're going to take some pictures. We need to talk about Black crime, Black on Black crime. That's a mental thing right there. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming out today. A great show. Reggie, I want to thank you, and I'm gonna tell you, I know Miss Cullen would be so proud of Reggie. No, she'd be proud of you. When I saw you, Reggie, and that you became a doctor, the first thing I thought about was your mother. I said she would be so proud of you. So I want to thank you for you. Just keep on doing what you're doing, and we need to go up to our hometown and do a clinic up there. Let's have a round table up in our hometown with our folks. And we need to do that. Thank you guys so much. And just remember to stay, be safe, and keep on doing what you're doing. And I want to thank y'all for y'all free counseling service today. Next time I give y'all an insurance card. So if you guys just don't mind, don't log out yet. She's going to take some headshots of us again. And thank you so much.